What is up, everyone? It's the Redstone Scientist here from Everbloom Games. We just released a huge mashup pack, Anime Mashup. It's loaded with all sorts of cool secrets, full interiors, beautiful vehicles, and even a giant robot boss fight. You can even use the texture pack in your own worlds, but we also loaded our map with lots of cool characters. You may not have noticed, but as you walk around the city, the characters will sometimes comment on things they've seen you do. Today we're going to peel back the curtain and show you exactly how we brought the characters to life in Anime Mashup through reactive dialogue. One of our most popular maps is City Mashup. We got incredible feedback on that map, but the most common feedback we got was, "This map feels lonely. I wish there were people in it." So when we started working on Anime Mashup, we knew that had to be a top priority for us. But the city is so huge, how can you possibly fill it with enough interesting characters without blowing up the scope of the project way too much? Well, that's when we created the archetype system. So what is an archetype? The dictionary defines archetype as the original pattern or model of which all things of the same type are representations or copies. So the word archetype is used a lot in storytelling to refer to the typical types of personalities of characters you find. And archetypes are especially common in anime and manga, so we took inspiration from that. So rather than coming up with hundreds of unique characters, we decided to make everyone one of 9 archetypes. Each archetype has its own model and a random selection from 3 skins, one for traditionally male, one for traditionally female, and one to look gender neutral. Our archetypes are flirt, spoiled, old person, bohemian, which is like an artsy person, little kid, authority figure, bro, otaku, which is like an excited fan of something, sometimes called fanboys and fangirls, and smarty, like a nerd. So now we have characters to populate the world, but how do we give them personality? Well, of course, textures and animations play a big role, but we also wanted them to interact with you. So we started the big job of designing our dialogue system. So here's a very general explanation of how it works. Dialogue gets triggered when you walk close enough to someone. It'll play a randomly selected line to you based on the person speaking. And when we go to play a line, it goes through our special system to select something to say. And there are 2 types of lines to pick from: normal lines and reactive lines. Normal lines are lines that don't have any requirements to play. A normal line could be something as simple as, "Hey, how you doing?" Reactive lines are lines that only play when the player has fulfilled a certain requirement, like visiting a location or playing a minigame. For example, if you go swim to the bottom of the school pool, there may be a chance for the bohemian to say, "You're a good swimmer, I can barely manage to float." Every archetype has their own versions of reactive lines and normal lines. So the flirt will say something different about the pool. So to review, there are normal lines and reactive lines for every archetype. When a line is requested by the system, it rolls the dice to see which of these to get. 60% of the time, it'll choose a normal line, and 40% of the time, it will choose a reactive line. Now, in the world of Anime Mashup, the Dosatsu Corporation has implemented mass surveillance and watches your every move. So it would kind of make sense that people around town would know what you were doing even if they weren't there to watch it. Spooky, huh? Imagine a bunch of switches that all start on off, and that every time you do something special, a switch gets turned on. There are 34 of these special switches that you can trigger in the game. So the more you play, and the more you do, the more switches come on, and the more reactive lines will be activated. We made a lot of lines. Every archetype has 100 normal lines and 34 reactive lines. That means there are 1,206 lines in the dialogue system. That's a lot of talking. Why so many? Well, we wanted each person's experience to feel unique. We also wanted to make sure multiple people of the same archetype didn't always say the same thing. Hearing the same lines repeated over and over again is boring, and it's unrealistic too. This was just the first of many times we're going to use this special system in our maps. We want to improve it more over time as well to make for more realistic and more relevant dialogue to immerse you in the wonderful worlds of Everbloom Games.
Hi, I'm SP Ridley, a concept artist that worked on Anime Mashup. My work in this map focused on designing the different NPCs, vehicles, and of course, the giant mecha. A lot of care was put into researching this map, just so fans of anime, manga, and Japanese culture could find something to enjoy in it. I'm personally a big fan of manga and anime, of both old school and modern works, so I was also pretty excited to work on the art for this map. The vehicles were the first things we created art-wise, and we wanted to reference both famous anime and manga vehicles as well as typical Japanese ones. For example, this map has both smaller family cars as well as more extravagant decotoras, which are trucks decorated in crazy ways and blended with typical Japanese art. We also have some anime and manga references here and there with the 80s drifting car. I personally recommend listening to some catchy superhero beats while driving this one, and a sci-fi inspired motorbike. You may think school buses decorated as animals only exist in anime, but you will be surprised to see there are real school buses around Japan that are decorated this way. We really attempted to go the extra mile in this map, so we focused on the fine details of all our assets, even basing the license plates of the vehicles on real Japanese ones, with the numbers being the birthdays of the team members that worked on the map. When it came to NPCs, we had tons of fun cramming references and tributes here and there. Most of our characters are tropes based on anime, from shonen-like characters to shoujo-like ones. Of course, we also went with the typical slice of life tropes, since this is mainly a slice of life type of map, with Japanese high school students, office workers, manga artists, cosplayers and otakus, and who could forget all the different and varied hair colors? Of course, the big showdown of this map is the giant mecha fight. Everyone in the team is super proud of this creation, but I'm going to talk about it concept-wise. I have to say that, whilst I enjoy some of the more famous mecha anime, I'm not an expert, so during my drawing sessions I watched some helpful YouTube documentaries about the history of this Japanese genre, and based the design choices on that. Although most mecha anime use samurais as inspiration for the robot designs, we decided that, as this robot was portrayed as a villain, we will change it up and take inspiration from an Oni, which is a type of demon in Japanese culture. Can you find all the tributes to manga, anime and Japanese video games in the objects and characters we created for Anime Mashup?
Hello, my name is Ninja, I am the art director of Everbloom Games, and I also worked on the models and textures in this map alongside our fabulous art team. We started by doing lots of research, which for this map actually included watching animes. To ensure our map felt genuine, we also looked at other parts of Japanese culture as well as art. We worked with a cultural consultant to make sure all of the details were spot on, and this brought another level of authenticity to the map. One of the most important things we focused on was how to really bring across an anime theme into a low-resolution Minecraft world. Because of the research we did, we were able to get a clear picture of what an anime style would be for everyone involved. And so we ended up going with a colourful palette with clean and flat shaded textures, as you'd see in real anime and manga. This can be seen in all parts of the map, from the blocks, to the models, to even the skins that are included, which allow you to roleplay as students in your own slice of life anime, or as a hero in a shonen. We also took great care in making a variety of block textures based on objects and items which are household staples in Japan. For example, tatami mats, shoji, which are wooden paper walls, and zabuton, which are cushions for sitting. By doing this, we hope you get a realistic Japanese experience in our world. I hope you appreciate the amount of thought, work, and detail we put into the map, and that it makes your time in Anime Mashup more rewarding.
Hello, I'm Wonder, level team lead at Everbloom. Together with Bulix, Dan27, and Pluto You There, we constructed the large island of Anime Mashup. The level team had three main pillars: telling small stories via items, realistic scale, and finally authenticity. Starting with the first pillar, Anime Mashup has an overarching story about mass surveillance and monopoly by the largest firm in the city, Dosatsu. Implications of this can be found in every corner of the map. For example, most of the posters throughout the city feature their logo, and companies are littered with Dosatsu grants. There are many smaller stories to be discovered in all the buildings. Each apartment or residential building will tell you a bit about who lives there. Maybe they like collecting rocks, maybe they like eating ramen. Some of these stories are also themed based on what building it is, and sometimes spans whole floors of larger buildings, or even different buildings altogether. For example, in the manga district, you may find a story about competition between two manga publishers. The second pillar is realistic scale. A lot of the buildings were based on distances measured in Google Maps from Japan. All the roads are a little bit over 3 blocks wide, which corresponds more or less exactly to Japanese road measurements. This may seem unimportant, but if you get the metrics consistently right, proportions between the buildings and the rest of the environment will sort themselves out, which contributes a lot to the feel of this map. Furthermore, the interior sizes are for the most part similar to what you may expect to find in real life. There are a few exceptions to this, where some interiors felt too cramped even though they were realistic. For example, the bathroom ceilings are 1 block lower than that of the surrounding rooms in many cases, so that the bathrooms feel like a small escape from the rooms around it. Lastly, we focused on authenticity. Sachiko, our consultant for this project, helped a great deal with making sure we got this part right. Using reference images from Japan, we added a large number of vending machines, ads, and electrical poles. The big mainland bridge is based on how the Japanese build their bridges, very different to the Western ways. All the points of interest are based on things Japan is known for, like manga culture, karaoke places, bathhouses, hot springs, traditional buildings, etc. We also made sure we got one of the most iconic Japanese things right, the school. It is based on actual Japanese school layouts, with the shoe lockers just inside the entrance before moving on to the other aspects of it. Beyond the school, every residential building has at least one soaking bathtub per floor, known as ofuro, and all homes have a small carpet or lowered floor where you could store your shoes. There's much more going on in Anime Mashup, with some exciting secrets and interactivity with the environment for the players to find, but we think these 3 pillars capture the essence of it pretty well.
If you enjoyed this video and want to see more behind the scenes content, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. You can also join our Discord by clicking the link in the description. And remember to click the little bell icon so you get notified every time we have a new video out. Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoy the world of Anime Mashup.